Golden Iris Productions presents Missionary Family Adventures, Beneath the Volcano. From the book by Mark F. Dennis. Introduction. This is the story of an American missionary family and their remarkable journey to Japan. It is a story of faith, family, adventure, and growing up between two cultures. It is the story of how an ordinary family from America found themselves living beneath one of the most active volcanoes in the world. The events you are about to hear are not fiction. They are real memories from a childhood spent in the mountains of Japan. They are stories of ocean voyages, mountain trails, train rides, cultural discoveries, and the experiences that shaped an entire family. To understand how we came to live in such an extraordinary place, we begin not in America, but beneath the shadow of a volcano in the Japanese Alps. Historical disclaimer. This series faithfully presents the writings and memories of missionary Dick Dennis. His observations about religion, culture, and society reflect his sincerely held evangelical Christian beliefs during the 1960s. They are presented in their historical context to preserve the authenticity of his family's story and are not intended as commentary on the beliefs of others today. Part 11. Back in Japan. On July 8, 1970, the Dennis family once again set foot on Japanese soil. Their journey across the Pacific had been aboard one of the world's newest Boeing 747 jumbo jets. After a brief delay caused by a misunderstanding about the arrival time, the team field chairman welcomed them back to Japan. Team Center, Tokyo. The family's plan was to spend several days at Team Center in Tokyo, resting after the long journey and adjusting to the new time zone. But with 5 excited children awake at 2:30 in the morning, everyone was soon exhausted. They decided to catch the first train and continue on to Karuizawa.
Home to Karuizawa. As the train climbed into the mountains, the family finally felt they were returning home. When they arrived in Karuizawa, Nathan looked around in confusion and said, "This doesn't look like a field to me." He had imagined a mission field as a grassy field instead of a mountain town. Summer in Karuizawa. Arriving early in the summer gave the Dennis family time to settle in and renew friendships with missionaries they had known during their first term. Dick and Millie also looked forward to attending the Team JAMA and Deeper Life conferences, where they would once again work with missionary teenagers.
A new house. The Wilson house was already occupied, and most of the summer cottages were filled with missionaries attending conferences. Anticipating the need, Dick had already arranged to rent a large house on the hill above Team Center, providing plenty of room for their growing family of 7. Our third home. This was the Dennis family's third home in Japan. Our first had been beneath Tigard's Mountain, the second was the Wilson cabin, and now we moved into a larger 2-story house above Team Center. Its bright red A-frame roof, designed for heavy winter snow, reminded Dad of homes in the Swiss Alps. Inside the house. Like most Japanese homes, everyone entered through the ginkan, where shoes were removed before stepping inside. A long hallway led to the kitchen and living room, while another door opened into the storage room. Even the toilet reflected traditional Japan, with a wooden water tank and a pull string to flush. The bathroom. The bathroom was simple but practical. It had a concrete floor, a deep Japanese soaking tub, and an instant gas water heater. An old washing machine with a hand wringer shared the room. The biggest surprise, however, was the giant Japanese hoppers that hid inside. Stepping on one barefoot was an experience none of us ever forgot. Steps and upstairs. The steep staircase beside the bathroom led to the second floor. At the top, Mark and Nathan's bedroom was on the right,
while Kathy's room and Dad's study were on the left. Warm air vents from the living room heated Kathy's room and the study, but Mark and Nathan's room remained cold throughout the winter beneath the steep A-frame roof. Warmed by the stove. The living room was the heart of the house during the long winter months. A single kerosene stove provided the only heat in the home, and the family often gathered around it to stay warm. Many evenings were spent here reading, talking, and enjoying the simple comforts of family life. Backyard. Large windows in the living room overlooked the backyard, where Mom hung the family's laundry on the clothesline. At the end of the hallway were the master bedroom and the baby's room. Though the home was simple, the backyard and its peaceful surroundings became part of many cherished childhood memories. The neighborhood. The Dennis family's neighborhood was small and quiet, with only a few homes scattered up the hill from Team Center. Next door stood another house much like theirs, and nearby was a larger two-family home surrounded by a concrete block wall. A small pine tree beside the house became one of Mark's favorite climbing trees, while a large oak in the yard would soon become the site of a homemade tree fort and many childhood adventures. The garbage pit. One of Dad's first summer projects was digging a 10-foot deep garbage pit in the backyard. It was lined with old automobile tires and covered with a heavy plywood lid with a hinged opening for kitchen scraps and other organic waste. The job reminded him of digging the outhouse years earlier at the Fire Lookout Tower in the mountains of Idaho. Unpacking the barrels. A few weeks later, the family's barrels finally arrived from the port of Yokohama. Although they had flown to Japan by jet, all of their belongings had crossed the Pacific by ship. Packed inside sturdy steel drums were dishes, clothing, books, and many treasured possessions. After a week or two of unpacking, the Dennis family truly felt at home once again. Music and discovery. With everything unpacked, Dad connected his reel-to-reel tape recorder and filled the house with beautiful classical music. The children loved listening to stories like Peter and the Wolf and the Tale of Peter Rabbit. They also spent hours exploring the microscopic world with their microscope, even collecting specimens from a nearby pond to examine on their own. Team Center. Team Center was the missionary family's home away from home. Two entrances led into the wooded property, connected by a winding dirt road that branched off to cabins and walking paths. While many cabins were used only during the summer, a few winterized homes housed the missionaries who lived in Karuizawa throughout the year. The north entrance crossed a small wooden bridge from the upper part of town, directly across from the Anglican church built by Canadian missionary Alexander Croft Shaw. Just beyond the bridge, on a gentle hillside, was a small cemetery where several missionaries and their children were laid to rest, a quiet reminder of those who had faithfully served in Japan. Part 12. Festival of the Dead. Every summer, the missionaries witnessed during Bon Matsuri, the Festival of the Dead. Thousands of Japanese walked to the local shrine to honor their ancestors, giving the missionaries an opportunity to share the gospel. To them, it was much like the prophets confronting idol worship in the Old Testament. For the missionary kids, however, Obon was simply an exciting festival. The streets were filled with food vendors, games, cotton candy, toys, and glowing trinkets. Boys proudly carried toy guns, while children waved sparklers as drums echoed through the warm summer night. Every missionary kid had a favorite Obon memory, and for many it was the delicious whole squid grilled on a stick and covered with sweet soy sauce. The final night of the festival ended with spectacular fireworks that rivaled the 4th of July, creating memories that lasted a lifetime. Adventures on the river. Beyond the tennis courts at Team Center flowed a small river that became the boys' favorite place to explore. Like Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, Mark and his friends wandered its banks,
climbing over rocks, crossing spillways, and setting off on new adventures almost every day. During the spring rains and summer typhoons, the river swelled into a rushing torrent that nearly overflowed its banks. But when the rain stopped, it became a quiet stream filled with marsh grass, cattails, and shallow pools, perfect for endless childhood exploration. Every adventure seemed to produce another unbelievable story. The boys discovered old bicycles, abandoned junk, and even the occasional dead animal. By the time they returned home, their tales had grown to include fierce dogs, mysterious hermits, and, of course, the many poisonous mamushi snakes they claimed to have defeated. Trout fishing. Near the edge of town was a trout fishing pond where visitors paid according to the size of the fish they caught. Dad always encouraged the children to fish in the less expensive ponds, but one day Mark accidentally hooked an enormous trout from the big fish pond. After a long struggle, the giant trout was finally landed, only to discover it had swallowed the hook. There was no turning back, and Dad reluctantly paid the higher price. That evening, the family enjoyed one very large trout for dinner. Being bugged. Summer also meant bugs, lots of bugs. Cicadas, butterflies, dragonflies, and lightning bugs fascinated the children, who spent hours catching them in nets and keeping them in small plastic cages before releasing them back into nature. The greatest prize of all was the giant kabuto mushi, the Japanese rhinoceros beetle. The boys searched eagerly for these impressive insects, feeding them cucumbers and even encouraging the large males to wrestle one another. To the girls, they were terrifying, but to the boys, they were absolutely fascinating. To be continued. Memoirs of a Missionary, Bringing True Light to the Land of the Rising Sun, tells the story of my father, Dick Dennis, and his decades of missionary service in Japan. Drawing from his journals, prayer letters, and personal memories, the book records the challenges, victories, and everyday experiences of sharing the gospel while living among the Japanese people. Many of the events presented throughout this series are drawn from these first-hand accounts. If you would like to explore the story in greater detail, simply scan the QR code or visit the book on Amazon. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this presentation, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share this video with others. For more content, visit my 2 YouTube channels. Mark F. Dennis at Golden Iris Knowledge Quest, where we explore physics, cosmology, science, and emerging ideas about the structure of the universe. And Mark F. Dennis at Golden Iris Religion Quest, where we examine religion, spirituality, biblical studies, Jewish mysticism, and the history of religious thought. Your support helps these channels continue to grow and allows me to create more presentations, books, and educational content. Thank you again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.